Hello, my name is Renee Boston Hill, and I'm so happy to be here today with Dr. JakeHochard. Okay, he's running for House Seat 9, and I'm going to be just having a casual conversation with him about why he's running for the House Seat 9. So, welcome, Jake. How are you doing?
I am wonderful. Thank you, Renee. I really appreciate you taking the time to do this.
Well, I just want to, just let people know that you are a viable candidate out there and that you have a lot to offer. And why don't you just start off by telling the audience why are you running and what your background is to qualify you for this position.
Yeah, thank you. Well, I never had political aspirations. I never dreamt of being a politician or being a public servant. I'm an educator. I teach at ECU. I'm from a blue-collar family, not a particularly political family. I'm a first-generation college student, and that's what brought me to Greenville, ECU. I love interacting with our first-generation college students, our students from low-income families. That's where I feel home. That's where I feel comfortable. My wife is also a professor at ECU, and she's also a first-generation college student. So this was the perfect fit for me, and we were fortunate enough to solve that co-location problem. We both got positions at the same university, which is incredibly rare. So when that happens, you know you're in for the long haul, and luckily we loved the community that we moved into and that we joined. So we bought our home in Englewood neighborhood, and it wasn't until July of 2019 where Kayla and I ever had the idea of running for public office. And I say we because it truly is a family endeavor. As you know, you've run for public office in the past, and Calvin is with you every stride of the way, and that's how Kayla is for me. So we made that decision together when Donald Trump came to our community, and chanted send her back on that evening. And to us, that didn't resemble the community that we had grown to love. And we took a look around and said, well, what would it take to try to represent our community in a better light? Because we knew, and the campaign trail has confirmed, that that wasn't representative of this community. So that's what we decided. And when I looked into it, the reason that I chose a state legislator position is because there were hardly any educators in the General Assembly. And I thought that was wrong. So if you look at the General Assembly, right, this position that I'm seeking, this position that others are seeking in the district, it's a job that requires about 150 days of your life throughout the year. You don't know when those days will be. We're coming off of one of the longest historical sessions in North Carolina history, and you get about $13,000, $14,000 a year. So as I looked into this position and the potential for service, I learned that almost everybody in the General Assembly is, an independently wealthy businessman, an attorney, consultant of some sort. There's actually more funeral directors than there are teachers. So when we look at the state of public education, and this is something that I'm well versed with because at ECU I actually teach one of the largest courses at the university. So I have students from all 100 counties coming through my course. And I learned after 5 years of teaching at ECU and interacting with these kids that the zip codes they're coming from ultimately determined their educational opportunity. So that's a really unique vantage point, and it was a moving experience for me because it just seems morally wrong. The number one job of the state is to provide a sound education that will create opportunity for the next generation, and I saw that we were failing them on that. And to me, these things are related. It's because we don't have educators in Raleigh. I believe Pitt County is the perfect place to lead that change and send educators to recommit to public education in North Carolina.
Okay, all righty. So education then is one of your most important things that you're going to be fighting for. Are there any other opportunities or things that you feel that with your work experience, your educational background, that you like to put at the forefront? We do know that environmental is something that some of our legislators don't feel that that's important, that the coal ash problem that we're having. Tell us about your background and how that matches with environmental.
Yeah, so I am a doctorate in environmental economics. In addition to being a professor at ECU, I'm also a research scientist. So what I have done for the past 5 years is I've brought the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency into North Carolina, teamed up with ECU, and we've been focusing on water quality in the eastern part of our state. And many don't know that we actually have the second largest population in the country that draws their water from private well systems. Those are not regulated. It's often the case that we have shallow aquifers. People are tapping into water that's not very far away from the surface. And as you know, we have a ton of animal agriculture in our state. We have a ton of coal ash facilities. The regulations on those are iffy and mostly not enforced. So we've been studying the impact of these massive hurricane events that we're having that we expect to only get worse. Things like Hurricane Katrina, things like Hurricane Maria in Puerto Rico, and more close to home, Hurricane Floyd in Greenville, Hurricane Matthew in Greenville, Hurricane Florence just a couple years back. How do these things impact our most vulnerable populations? So that's what I've dedicated my life to studying. And the truth is these are solvable problems, but they take representatives that have a deep understanding of the science and also somebody that on that General Assembly floor can make the scientific argument. Because climate change can't be a bad word in North Carolina. We have to accept that it's happening. We have to accept that it's impacting the livelihoods of our citizens, and we have to make bold investments to protect us from those effects. Okay. So I think I'm the perfect person to do that.
Alrighty, so that to make it relatable, right, to the community, to the people who, when we have these heavy impacts, like a hurricane in Greenville or in Pitt County, and it affects those who are living in mobile homes, and they have this mold issue. How relatable is your work experience that you can come in and they can understand how you would be the best person to solve that problem?
Yeah, well, there's so many things that the state can do to solve these problems that even our city can't do. So when we look at the impact of Hurricane Matthew, right, so we're downstream from Rocky Mount. So Rocky Mount's wastewater goes into our river, and our river serves our drinking water for our city. So when you have a storm like Hurricane Matthew that generates, the untreated discharge of waste into that river, ultimately that goes into our faucets. This is something that Greenville can't solve because it's coming from upstream. But the state needs to intervene and take care of those things so that people aren't drinking contaminated water, so that we're not being exposed to those toxins. So it comes down to infrastructure, it comes down to making investments, and being prepared for climate change means spending money on modern infrastructure, channeling that stormwater into places that aren't going to harm us, making sure that our vulnerable populations living in low-lying areas have the barriers and the levees to protect them. So Princeville is making a $40 million investment in a levee to protect that community. Those types of investments need to be made to protect our vulnerable communities, not only our wealthy communities.
Okay, so that's, that sounds great because that's one of the things or concerns and issues that not only I, as a person living here now in Pitt County, but a lot of people do. And this is something that we need to, as a state legislator, you would have be able to create bills that would help to protect the communities that are most offense. So when is our early voting started? Just want to make sure that our community knows when they're going to start, they can start to vote for you.
Yeah, so early voting begins on Thursday, so a week from yesterday. That's February 13th. And you can vote at 5 different locations early, one-stop locations. There's the Pitt County Ag Center, the Alice Keene Center, the county office on West 5th Street, the ECU Student Center, and the Winterville Fire Station. And those will run from February 13th until February 29th, from 8 a.m. until 7:30 p.m., slightly shorter hours on your Saturdays and Sundays, and then Election Day is March 3rd. So we're encouraging everybody to vote early and get out.
Okay, so now, suppose somebody wants to have not had the opportunity to meet with you. Where are you going to be doing any debates? Are you going to be doing any meet and greets, candidate forums that you can have people come up to meet you and to get, to be more personable? Yeah. So, we're going door to door to make sure we try to meet everybody. It's not possible. I always joke as a Democrat, it's easy because you just knock on the doors that have Subarus. But we have a bunch of events coming up. You can check out our website at JakeHochard NCHouse9.com to keep up with those. My cell phone number is on that website as well. You can reach out to me directly. I'm always happy to have coffee with people. There's always time in the day to hear people's concerns. You can email me and I will respond directly because I monitor those emails. You can reach out on social media and I will respond directly because I care and I'm willing to take that time.
I'm happy to sacrifice my sleep to address anyone's concerns.
So just give us your that information again, slower.
Yeah, so Jake, the number 4, NC.com. And from there you can reach out with our online forms, you can reach out on social media, you can get in contact with us in a bunch of different ways.
Alrighty, so we're going to keep this interview going. Is there anything that you can think about that you would like to let everybody know why you are the candidate for House Seat 9? Maybe something that I missed out on that I would like for you just to let, and get personal with the audience.
Yeah. Look, I think if you look at the challenges that are facing our state, things like defunding public education for the past 12 years, right? We were once 25th in per student funding, we're now 37th. For the past 12 years, we've gutted our budget on public education. If you look at the decision, the choice, not to expand Medicaid coverage in North Carolina, right? That's a choice to refuse coverage to 500,000 struggling individuals who are living just above the poverty line. Now, the most bizarre part of this is that it's a $4 billion expansion, it's expensive, but the federal government would already pay $3.6 billion of that with our federal taxpayer dollars. So by choosing not to expand it, we're actually spending our own money to subsidize the expansion and give health care to other states. So to me, this is absolutely unacceptable. It's something that will help people in our community. It's something that needs to get done. So public education, healthcare services, and smart climate investments need to be the top priority. Now, I believe that the reason we haven't done and made progress on these policies is because of the type of people we elect. I believe it's very fundamental to the system. So when you ask me, am I the best candidate? I actually don't think I'm the best representative for our community. I think I'm the best representative on the ballot. But the truth is, Renee, the best representative of our community probably couldn't run for office. So the best representative of our community might be a nurse, it might be a teacher, it might be a bus driver, it might be somebody that works 40, 50 hours a week and doesn't have that workplace flexibility to go to Raleigh and represent our community. So the reason I'm the best person on the ballot is because what I'm fighting for is for these legislator positions to be paid a fair wage so that a teacher could take a year off for the sake of public service and wouldn't have to independently bankroll that public service. And what that would do is make the General Assembly representative of the people that they're actually representing. And to me, that is the most fundamental problem with our state government right now.
Well, I have to agree wholeheartedly with that, position that you're taking, because I just know from the past of, for me running into an elected position and what other people have to struggle to make it happen, and people who are not in it, what it takes for them to do it and to be appreciated, that you really are truly committed to serving. And you have to be a committed service person in order to do that. Have you done community work in the past, or where have you done service in the community? Yeah,
I like to think of my entire career as public service. I am the first ECU professor to ever pursue an NC House of Representatives spot. So I am a state worker. And because of that, there's this potential conflict that you're a state worker, you'd be serving in the General Assembly, so it's very difficult to do. You actually have to get special permission. But in addition to teaching the students from all 100 counties in North Carolina, on the weekends we go and do storm relief work in hurricane-exposed areas. This is where our expertise is. We go and test private well systems in the southeastern part of the state. We go make sure they're not contaminated. We go educate people on how to inspect their own well systems to make sure, especially among pregnant women in the eastern part of the state, to make sure that they're not being exposed or causing in utero exposures to their unborn babies. So that's what Kayla and I are passionate about.
Okay, very good. Alrighty, so just trying to think of what the listeners out there would want to know more about you. But again, I think it's just very important for them to, to be vigilant. One of the things that I do believe is that educated voter is an empowered voter, and it's so important for them to know the candidate and know who they're going in to vote for. So early voting is starting Thursday,
Mm-hmm.
February the 13th. You listed the sites. We're going to go over that one more time.
Mm-hmm.
The actual general election day is March the 3rd, but we do know that early voting can determine an election. So we want them to come out early, vote. And will you have any services? One of the things that if a person wants to get out and they have problems getting to the polls, are you going to have any services to taking people to the polls?
Yeah, they can call me personally, and I will pick them up.
Okay.
So my number is on my website. You can call me directly, and if you can't get to the polls, I will personally pick you up. I won't send a bus. I will come.
Okay.
So please reach out. We do have volunteers working at all the polling sites, and if I can't make it, they will come pick you up. So we will make that happen because we want everyone's voice to be heard.
Okay.
You know, one of the things that I think is a top priority in 2020, Renee, is making sure that people's voices are heard in a fair way. Now, this seat has a history, right? This seat has been Republican controlled since 2012. And it is the most important seat for Democrats in our state because it is the seat that will determine whether the Democrats take back control of the NC House. Now, we have lost this seat in 2012, we lost it in 2014, and in 2015, the local Republicans appointed a well-known private sector physician to take the seat over. And that person won this seat in 2016, we lost it. In 2018, the Republicans won the seat again. In 2019, after Greg Murphy went to Congress, the local Republicans again appointed a very well-known, well-funded, organized private sector physician. In 2020, we have to win this seat, not just for our district, but for the entire state. I believe I'm the best person to do that. I believe my resume as a scientist, as an educator, as an economist, is what we need in Raleigh. If we, the party of the Democrats, are to be the voice for public education expansion, it's time that we begin electing public educators. If we're to be the voice of climate science, it's time that we start electing scientists. If we're to be the voice of economic prosperity, then elect an economist. So we need to start practicing what we preach. Now, what I can promise is when I go to Raleigh and when I fight for this seat in the General Assembly, I will not hold back. I will give it everything I have. I'll stay true to my values and they will never be compromised. And I will stay as long as I have to get the job done, but I will not be a career politician because I don't believe career politicians are good for the system. But I will come with my particular set of skills and I will argue to right all these wrongs that have happened in our state over the past 10 years.
Very good. All righty. So Dr. JakeHochard, it's been my pleasure to sit with you today. I hope that you've answered some of the questions for our viewers out there that why you are the candidate for House Seat 9. Again, we're going to ask you to list the sites, the dates for the early voting.
Yeah, so early voting begins on Thursday, and you can vote early at the Pitt County Ag Center. You can vote at the Alice Keene Center. You can vote at the county office building on 5th Street. You can vote at the ECU Student Center and the Winterville Fire Station, and that lasts until February 29th. That goes from 8 until 7:30 p.m. with abbreviated hours available on the weekends, and Election Day is March 3rd. So I am asking you for your support because we need to do it differently in 2020, and when we do, we will flip this seat blue. Thank you all for being here.
All right.
Thank you, Renee.
Thank you. All righty, so we're here today. Again, my name is Renee Boston Hill. I'm here with Dr. JakeHochard, who's running for House Seat 9, and I thank you for just being with us today.
I really appreciate your time, Renee, and thank you for being here.
Okay.